Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Somewhere between science and superstition.
We have such sights to show you.
Strange Aeons. Welcome to Strange Aeons Radio, which is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Alexa, iHeart, and every other podcatcher in the known universe. That's Eric over there.
Hello.
That's Vanessa over there.
Good day.
Hey, guys. I am going to, I just want to talk about this whole cult of Snyder thing that has popped up now that Justice League Uncut is out. We have all seen it now, right?
Yes, empowering the
right
culture. Yes.
And look, I didn't hate the movie. I didn't love the movie, but there was something that I saw posted that I just have to bring up and get your guys' thoughts on.
Okay.
So this idiot writes,
Oh, no.
okay, real talk. The Snyder Cut was actually amazing. Yeah, it was long. Yeah, the last 2-3 scenes were unnecessary. There were a few moments that could have been trimmed, but I understood. Blah, blah, blah. Vanessa, did you write this? And may I remind you, you are under oath.
I did. I did, in fact, write that.
You loved this movie.
Okay. Here,
according to this post, I could read the whole thing if you'd like.
I know, and it's pretty long.
It's pretty long. Well, okay. I don't know if I love this movie, but in comparison to the other Justice League movie I saw, I loved this movie. And I can't, if I saw this version as the first version of Justice League I ever saw, I don't know how my feelings would sway. But right now, I'm like, this is a fucking awesome film.
Yeah, you didn't note in your diatribe here that this wasn't compared to the 2017 version. In fact, you say, quote, actually amazing. You don't then say compared to the other.
No. It's true. No, you know what? Sometimes time helps us see our emotions a little more clearly. And look, I really liked it a lot. And there were things in there that I just loved, like moments and beats.
Well, let's put a little spoiler warning out here, and let's talk Justice League for 10 minutes.
I think I can help this a little bit too, because upon
Whoa!
Oh, God, it is a bird.
It is a very breezy day, and we're watching the sighting on my roof fly around.
Yeah, smack into the window. But upon watching Snyder's, because I saw your post and I saw your comments, God damn it, I'm going to watch this damn thing before I record again. And so for 4 days, I watched the whole thing. Upon watching it, I realized I had not seen the other version. I did not see Josh's. So.
Oh. Did you go back and watch it, or you still haven't?
Do not. I mean, it's not a good movie. It's not worth watching.
I think it's great to watch as an editor. Watch it, because comparing the two, it's fucking mind-blowing. The way they use the same content in completely different contexts is fascinating. I'm like, you didn't even use the same goddamn shots from the same scene. Like, it's different shots. You went through and got other ones.
Well, let's keep in mind, this is still not the Snyder Cut. This is the Snyder do-over after he got to see all of the bullshit that Joss Whedon got. This is not his.
Watch it.
The footage that he shot and turned into Warner Brothers was a 2-hour and 30-minute film that they did not like. So this is not the Snyder Cut.
Well,
this is them giving him $70 million more to reshoot a ton of shit and add effects to it. So this is a do-over.
Yes.
And he didn't have to see the movie to hear all of the shit that was being tossed.
100%. And he had actually sent other people to the premiere, like, in his place. I mean, because obviously, like you pointed out, he was going through some crazy shit.
Absolutely.
I don't know when he put together his cut. I don't know if it was after the film came out. I don't know at what point he was like, yeah, I've got a 2.5 hour film to push out there. Yeah, you're right. It is a do-over, and it's an opportunity for him to do whatever the hell he wants with no restraints. And I'm almost entirely okay with that, except for the ending. And that's where I think a big part of that budget went, was that because that Joker stuff was completely reshot. That was new.
Awful.
That was all new
Also,
That was
content.
awful.
absolutely unnecessary. part of that
Completely
film.
unnecessary.
I was like,
And a waste of time and a weird. I was like, this is fine if you want to put it as like a weird web content extra, or if
Yeah.
you want to put it as like something in the next movie. But this movie, it does not belong.
or
here.
maybe even do it with the post credit, one of those post credit scenes
Sure.
where it disconnects it a little bit from the rest of the film. Yeah, the Return of the Jedi was given a run for its money with the freaking endings on this damn movie. It was over.
It was a lot
I
of
thought it
endings.
was done, and it ran another 30,
Revenge of the
40
Sith.
minutes. No, not Return of the Jedi, Return of the King.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
And,
That makes sense.
And so I hit one point where I had to stop. It's like, oh, got about 40 minutes left. Great. And I watched those 40 minutes and that end battle. It's like, well, this is wrapping up like, oh, must be really long credits. No, there's still 40 damn minutes of the movie after it should have ended.
Yeah, I'm trying to
So I'm just
remember
like,
where
Jesus.
that moment would have been. I mean, I didn't mind it ending right before we saw the first Lex Luthor tease. And then
Yeah.
the second Lex Luthor tease, and then the Martian tease, and then,
Yeah.
then the Joker tease.
God.
And I was like, guys, I don't mind the Martian one because it's just funny and it's helpful because it gives us more information about the previous two films that we did not have before. That's great. It ties things together. But like,
He was a
this
weird, if you're going to include him at all,
mhm,
especially you're going to include him in that earlier scene
mhm.
for seemingly no real reason other than, well, I'm going to instigate this, but then I'm just going to go away. I mean, he's an incredibly powerful character in
Yeah.
the DC universe, and he supposedly seemed to know what was going to go on
Yeah.
and why she needed to go to work. It's like, why don't you go fight with them?
Yeah, at the end when he shows up at Batman's house, it would be like, oh, thanks. Hey, powerful dude. By the way, where were you when we could have used you?
It would have been great if they'd had that be the first time we saw him instead of like, haha, I was not Martha Kent.
Yeah, that
Martha
was
Kent
weird.
was not Martha Kent. I was Martha Kent.
That also threw me off in the later scenes with Lois and Martha. I kept waiting for her to say something like,
I
well,
know,
it
I
was
was
you
waiting
that pushed
too.
me in. And that's a problem then.
Yes.
That is a
Yeah.
problem in filmmaking when
I
you're
agree.
pulling the person out. I had just tons of problems with this.
Interesting.
One of the things you pointed out in your novel length post was that the character development was so strong.
Yeah.
Please tell me the fucking character development.
Okay.
Because Zack Snyder doesn't know how to write character arcs because he doesn't know how to write character flaws. There's nobody
That's true.
flawed in this movie unless it's that they're too cool or they're too powerful. His writing got retarded at the age of about 17, and it just kind of stopped as a male 17-year-old writer. And so all of his stuff is, fuck yeah, this is cool.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
would disagree with that because I feel like Aquaman had a refusal of the call. Like, I mean, to the point where I was like, yeah, obviously the Aquaman movie comes after this because he's straight up like, I don't want to do this. I'm busy being selfish and doing my own thing. And it comes into play with his own set of world.
Well,
I
let's
like-
also toss out everything that came out after Justice League because Zack did. We
Did
see
he?
we see Willem Dafoe in this movie,
Yeah.
but he clearly meets Willem Dafoe for the first time in Aquaman.
Oh, okay. I
So
couldn't remember.
I was
on
like,
that.
oh, he's throwing in characters. Thanks, I guess.
Mhm.
But he's not paying any attention to the movies that they were from.
Okay. I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, Wonder Woman 1984 doesn't make sense with the original Justice League version because in the original Justice League version, she never came out of hiding.
Right.
And in 1984, so the whole context already is kind of fucked up between the individual films. I agree. It's very strange and it's only going to get weirder because everyone's going in their own silos and making their own versions of things like the
Yeah.
new Suicide Squad and all kinds of stuff that's coming
Right.
out. So yes, you're right. But I would say there are things that I appreciated a lot that did not exist in the previous one, like Cyborg's backstory. I mean, Cyborg is like hiding away, ashamed of himself and like confused as to why he's even alive, doesn't want to do anything. We have the Flash who also has not yet figured out what he wants to do with his life. He just knows he needs a job, but what he really wants to do is go into criminal justice to save his father. That's all set up. I just felt like I understood the characters and why they were doing what they're doing, whether or not those motivations were good, whether or not they were fleshed out in a way that made me identify with them or really go through a big emotional arc with them, maybe that's different. But any emotional arc at all was so pleasurable. I was like, hey, this person's doing this thing for a reason at all.
Yeah.
Oh my God, even the bad guy, even Steppenwolf has like a motive fucking. He's like, I need to impress this guy. I'm out of his favor. I want to do this thing because like I want to get back in with him. And I'm a sad, sad puppy. Like, that's great.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely more stuff going in. There's 2.5 hours more stuff going in. I would argue you could cut all of the slow-mo down and we could get a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah, that got
Lois walking through the rain in
ridiculous at
slow
times.
motion makes
Yes.
no fucking sense.
I
except
don't care
that-
about Lois Lane.
Except
for
that you
the most part.
love.
Yeah.
the
And there
Wonder
were-
Woman saving all the kids one
That
was a
that
cool
was something
scene,
that I was
but
confused
the
about.
slow mo continuing as she goes down the road to save all the kids, like fast, oh, slow again, fast, oh, slow again,
Yeah, that's-
oh, even slower.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And the Wonder Woman theme song did get
oh, that
tired.
was so. It was
I
like
was
every time
really
she showed
done
up,
with
I'm
it.
like, what? Did the other characters have those? They just weren't as prominent.
No, the other characters were given really interesting, unique musical moments that I was like, oh, this is kind of strange and this isn't my style, but I love that it's this musical like theme is actually fitting with this character and what they're going through. That's really cool. That's really unique. That reminds me a lot of Watchmen. And then Wonder Woman score would come in and I'd be like, why? Why are we doing this again? Go back to the weird, cool music thing.
Even to the point where at the very ending, when she shows up to take the final swipe, it's like, and then it's like, you got a solid scene going here.
Yeah.
Breaking it up with that weird music beat
Yeah.
was just like, no, just keep the music you got going. It would have been just fine.
One thing I do want to say though is as much as we might not love that it's 4 hours or whatever, I don't think that's fair to be upset about in this day and age. Like we sit through.
Well, like the way I watched it, you mean? Like, I
Yeah, that's
watched it
fine.
as
I mean,
4
episodic.
1-hour
There's 6
shows.
parts. Why not? Yeah, that's how you should. That's how you should watch. I mean, like, why would we complain about that when we're willing to sit through, how many hours of 30 coins to get to, how many plot points? Like, we're willing to sit in this day and age through all kinds of weird, broken up content. We're willing to sit through Mandalorian, which has, sometimes it's 25 minutes and sometimes it's 45 minutes. And like, if we're willing to chill out about that, I don't think it's fair to be like super pissed about something that's streaming that's 4 hours.
I'm not super pissed. It's clearly first of all, this is a gigantic hit for HBO Max. And
I
this
hope
is
so.
clearly
I don't know how they make their money.
Let's give the fans what they want. And if you want this, we got tons of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I do look at it as a failing. And it's like, okay, we know how long a movie should be. And it took you twice as long to tell this story. There's a lot of fluff in this.
Oh, man.
But yes,
So
there is a
much.
lot of fun.
There's at least 2 or 3 giant battles with Steppenwolf where I'm like, well, he's going to win. So why is this 20 minutes long? 'Cause,
Yeah.
And everyone talking about how cool Steppenwolf looks now. I'm like, boy, he looks like a cartoon. He doesn't look like he fits into the world to me.
Mhm.
The scene where the 3 mother boxes and, the Atlanteans and the race of men and the dwarves and the elves each fight the dark side and his guys. That whole thing looked like a computer or a video game
Looked like a
cutscene.
cutscene in a video game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just like shocked at how that looked.
Yeah, I did notice there was a disparity in the CGI. I liked Steppenwolf because in the last one I remember thinking he just looked like some loser human guy and like I was not at all impressed with him. But in this one I loved that the armor was so I think that's where a lot of the budget went was his fucking armor because
Right.
it was
Yeah,
so
always moving.
reactive and moving and that they spent a lot more time on than that big opening battle.
Well-
But I didn't really care about the opening battle because I was like, oh, flashback.
I didn't care about it either. Could have been
Yeah.
tossed.
Or the
Oh.
effects in the Amazonian battle when they're on the horses or damn near anything Aquaman did underwater.
Right.
was just like,
It wasn't as good.
jeez, man.
But then like when we went to the opening bit with the Amazonians where the cliffside caved in and like they're like shooting and fighting in there, that looked fucking phenomenal. So
It did.
Mhm,
It
yeah.
made no sense. Are they just poised with arrows ready, pointing at that box
yes.
8 hours a day?
No. It's because it had a crack in it. Because Superman screamed because he was dying.
Yeah, I got it.
Yes, because he was dying. So the boxes understood he was gone and started to
Kryptonian is
wake
gone.
up.
So the boxes have been here forever, though,
Yes.
right? Why didn't they wake up before Superman arrived?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Maybe there was because there's a Green Lantern in that big battle. Because he said, Steppenwolf said there's no lanterns
there's
and
no
there's
one
no
to
Kryptonians,
defend
yeah.
it. Yeah, so this maybe you're right. Maybe I mean
So the places where the slow-mo worked for me was in that Wonder Woman scene, actually, when the bullets go by her and she
Oh,
can
yeah.
see. And
to get
I thought it
a good idea
made
of it.
sense because it shows that she operates on a level like Flash does.
Yeah.
Or, I think my favorite scene still from both movies is Flash coming around Superman after he's been awakened, and it's in the slow-mo stuff, and we see Superman's eye move and track him.
Notices
And
it,
it's
yeah.
such a great
Yeah.
shot.
Yes.
So I was happy about that. The one thing, though, out of that battle scene, the line "Do you bleed?" is not in there, which tied it back to the whole BVS and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and I thought was a really neat moment in the original film.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of reworking, and I think I get a big part of why. I feel like the original Justice League was all about Superman. It was Superman the movie. It was Superman
Sure.
Part 3 or whatever, or 4, or whatever the hell they're at. This movie was Justice League. So a lot of that stuff that was Superman centric got reworked, and I think we lost a couple of cool moments, but I think we gained a lot more about the other characters,
Sure.
which to the point where, like, did you know Flash was like a big part of the ending battle? Because all I remembered from the other Justice League was that he like saved some like kind of Soviet Union
Yeah.
family at one point with a bad joke.
He-
And this time I was like, oh my God, he freaking rewound time.
See, there-
Everybody put something in. That didn't happen
That was
before.
part of a problem for me, actually, because we've talked about this before. The problem of Flash is you solve your problem, you just go faster. Oh, the whole world's been destroyed. I'll just rewind time. Well, how about you go back and rewind time and save Superman so he doesn't die, he doesn't scream, none of the boxes crack open.
I didn't know
Or save
either,
your
but
mother.
I'm not a
Huh?
Or save your mother.
Yeah, there's which the TV show actually explores
Right.
really well.
Hmm.
But that's DC.
I
That's how
mean,
it's going to end. And I thought it was a cool battle. That didn't pull me out. Like the first half of the Wonder Woman battle, I thought was great when
Yeah.
she was rescuing the guys. It was just that, and I would have loved to have seen that slow motion stuff with the killers transposed with how fast she actually moved down that line to save the kids.
Right.
Put that in full speed because you've done all the slow motion. We get it. She's fast. Let's see her be fast.
Oh, I thought we did. I thought we saw her because I thought it looked a little silly.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
because it was fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow.
Gotcha.
And the way they showed Flash moving fast in ever increasingly slower motion, I was kind of like, can you do something else?
I get it.
It's really fast.
Although I will say, him twisting on his feet and his sneakers exploding off of him
That was
was
cool.
super
That was
cool.
fucking cool.
Look, there was a lot of stuff to like in
Yes.
this movie. I
Yeah.
just don't think it's a great movie. And this weird Snyder cut or Snyder cult that has evolved out of this is just like, what is going on? This guy.
A lot of people hated Batman v Superman. I was
Exactly,
like, wait,
but
didn't
now I'm
he-
seeing them retroactively talk about how great it was.
Suddenly
I
the
was the
Rotten
only one who
Tomatoes-
liked it.
The Rotten Tomatoes score for
Yeah.
both of the Snyder DC movies, which nobody had good things to say about, are suddenly climbing.
Yeah, interesting.
That is interesting. I didn't realize that because I remember watching Batman v Superman and being the only one who liked it. And the only reason I liked it is because I decided to stop watching it as a movie and instead watch it as like an animatic created comic. And I was like,
okay,
oh, this
sure.
is really neat.
That'll
This
work.
works. Yeah. And all of a sudden, all the cuts made sense to me. And I was like, yeah, this looks like that fucking scene and this fucking scene. So, yeah.
One
I-
other little thing that bugged me with this one was Superman's black uniform.
Mhm.
Because the whole film is about Superman is our hope. He is what's going to bring us hope again.
Mhm.
Why the fuck is he showing up looking like Batman? Let's have Superman not in the Christopher Reeve blue and red, because that would have been too much.
Yeah.
But even just the muted blues and reds, he would have been such a wonderful contrast
Interesting.
to everything else was so.
That was definitely a Snyder. It looks cool.
Oh yeah.
Well, and
kind of thing.
I think that was a nod to the black suit from Death
Well,
of
yeah.
Superman.
I did
Yeah.
want it because I just figured it was some nerd thing I didn't know.
Yeah.
It
No,
was.
no, I knew exactly what it was. I just did. I never really liked the Superman black outfit for that exact reason. To me, Batman is the dark, brooding DC character.
Right.
Superman's the hope for the future
Mhm.
and the hope for the world character. So turning him into, whenever they tried to turn him dark, when they added long hair or gave him weird facial hair, I was like, eh. I think there's a reason none of those things stuck. And I wanted him to be that hope in the story.
Well,
At least in this one, he didn't come back in the first third or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, they
actually
earned his
built-
return.
Yeah, they actually built up his fucking return. Last time I was like, I don't know why we're in this ship. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know why you have to do anything. Why is he back? What are we doing now? Like, I was so grateful that it had any meaning whatsoever. So just as kind of a return to my original post, Kelly.
oh, would you like me to read more of it?
No. It's fine. I do have to absolutely caveat it, at least for your sanity and for my own justification. Just say, I don't know whether or not I love this movie on its own as a piece. I can't say. In the context that I'm viewing it in, it's impossible. It's impossible. All I know is compared to what I saw before, almost every moment was a joy-filled expression of, there's a reason. Ah!
Fair enough.
Well, I didn't have that problem because, like I said,
Right.
I hadn't
You
watched
have
it.
to watch it.
So
Oh
I
my
was
God,
just
you have to
watching it
watch
based on the quality of this film itself.
Yeah.
And
I'm
it's
glad to have that
fine.
perspective.
Yeah, it's fine. It's the same thing. We've said it a few times, a few different ways. It's the same problem that DC has that Marvel has absolutely solved. Marvel's planning for their future films
Sure.
is so ballsy
Yeah.
and so unbelievably well executed. They took 10 movies to get to the end of the Avengers storyline.
Yeah. More.
And it's like 10, 15 years or more of planning ahead. And DC still feels like they're slipshotting. Well, let's get into this. Let's try to create
Agreed.
some kind of a thing, and then they kind of drop it.
Yeah.
Well,
Instead of doing
Just do individual movies and move on.
yeah, it felt like this was several movies pushed into one space.
And DC has always been reactionary. You know, they decided
True.
they had to do Justice League because Avengers was coming out.
Mhm.
But they are now reactionary to their own movies. If something does well, then they change their entire plan going forward. And it's
Yeah.
like, you guys come up with a game plan and stick with it. The Snyder DC universe is very dark and brooding. So you're going to get that kind of Superman because that's all he thinks is cool.
Right.
Right. And I mean, that's actually why that was the only thing I really liked about the first Superman that he did. I was like, oh, a dark version. I've never seen this portrayed for me. So I was okay with it.
He was pretty dark in the Superman movies.
I
mean, blowing the shit out of entire cities and stuff.
I need to check that shit out. Like I need to sit down and do that. Cause I'm not the person who should be talking about this actually. Cause I have no knowledge of any of this stuff.
I guess instead of tying it more into, was it Death? Who's the guy that killed him? Deathstroke.
Oh, you mean
who killed Superman originally?
Oh,
Deathlock.
no. I keep wanting to say Doom.
Yeah. But anyway, so my first thought, I guess, instead of that was I went to the Kingdom Come series, where his rebirth in that comic is phenomenal. There aren't a lot of times you're reading through a comic book and you get chills.
Wow.
But his refuse to call and then go into action moments in that comic are so astounding.
Mm.
And I was like, that's what I was thinking of, I think, than getting destroyed by that big giant chunk of rock that somehow they decided, well, after all these great villains, we're going to invent this dumb one just so he can get killed.
Well, this entire opening has to be a spoiler alert.
Yeah, we did start off by saying that.
We should just cut into our picks now.
I agree. I don't think we should worry about more content, guys.
Why don't we take a break then, and we'll come back and talk pranks.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Richard Bartram, Vice President Communications for WestJet, here with some exciting news. Effective today, we're introducing child-free cabins on board select flights. We've heard from many of our guests that they're tired of kids screaming and running up and down the aisle and are looking, quite simply, for some peace and quiet. So, you may be asking, how do I get my children to their destination? Well, that's a great question, and we've got a great answer. We call it Cargo Kids. Let's take a look at the process. When you arrive at the airport, simply ask for Cargo Kids when you check in. Our friendly WestJet customer service agents are more than happy to help. They'll assist you in getting your child ready for their trip on the travel toboggan. Your child will be whisked away on a magic carpet ride, and your work is done. Meanwhile, our WestJetters are hard at work. Your child's toboggan will arrive safely with the luggage and other kids who will be boarding that flight. From there, one of our friendly WestJetters will take the children to their waiting flight. On board each flight, we have a Cargo Kids counselor who's there to make sure that your kids are well taken care of and supervised. With plenty of toys and a state-of-the-art feed trough, your children will be able to run, play, scream, and eat all they want while you enjoy your flight in peace and quiet. So book Cargo Kids today by going to westjet.com/cargokids. That's cargo and kids with a K. And let us give you the peace and quiet you need. From all of us at WestJet, you're welcome.
Happy April Fools from WestJet.
Look for your savings below.
We are back. And hey, April Fools, you guys, we're not doing a show at all today.
We're just going to talk about Justice League and go home.
The end.
I just want to say I really enjoyed that segment, and I don't think of you guys as just friends, but as super friends.
I don't know. I feel like this is a deeper inside joke than I understand.
Now we need the
I'm
Wonder
concerned.
Twins. And
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice. This was my pick, you guys. And because it is April 1st, I picked movies with pranks in them.
nice.
This is awesome. This was a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
And so, well, you know, my first thought was I'm going to do Carrie because that is the ultimate prank that went wrong.
Sure was.
But I love that movie, and I feel like everybody has seen that movie. So instead,
well done.
I did The Rage, Carrie 2.
Romeo and Juliet, a tale of star-crossed lovers, pulled apart by their families, by society, and some might say, by fate. Now, why is it that we are so moved by love that ends with separation?
I don't know that I believe in it.
Believe in what?
Love? Who would love her? At your age, it's perfectly normal to be afraid of turning out like your parents. Is that scary for you?
All your life, you've known that you were different.
It must be nice not having to be like everybody else.
Sometimes I really wish I could just be one of the shiny, happy people, you know?
Come on, this girl's just a skank. You don't even know her. What, you do? Yeah, I do know her.
The others don't understand you.
At least be seen with someone cool, someone who counts.
Maybe somebody needs to teach the two of them a little lesson.
And they
Rachel?
don't want you around.
If you want to talk out your feelings...
No!
Well, to hell with them.
So you want to know how I'm feeling today?
When Rachel was growing up, did you ever see objects move by themselves? What is wrong with this picture? You've heard of Carrie White, haven't you? 73 people died night of the prom.
Next semester,
Rachel!
terror
Dude, it's her! It's her doing it!
runs in the family. The Rage, Carrie 2.
Man, we missed another killer party.
Very, very good twist.
From 1999. You might be surprised on my feelings for this film.
I'm ready.
It had a budget of $21 million, and a box office of about 18 million.
Ouch.
Rotten Tomatoes critics, 22%.
Yeah, there you go.
The audience, 33%.
Oof. I have not seen this movie.
Neither have I.
I'm about to make an argument that this is a film worth watching.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's directed by Kat Shea. She did some really cool movies that you may or may not have seen. Stripped to Kill 1 and 2, which are kind of exploitation films. She was working for Roger Corman at the time. They're both very good movies. She also did the original Poison Ivy.
Oh, jeez.
And she did that latest Nancy Drew movie, Nancy Drew and the Hidden Staircase.
Oh.
Yeah. It was written by Raphael Maru. He wrote this, of course, and Hackers.
Oh.
And he's one of these guys who has sold a ton of scripts that never got made into films. So he's like a working writer.
Yeah.
Man, if the writer of Hackers is that is one of the best written films of all time.
It stars Emily Bergl, who has, I think I'm pronouncing her last name, Bergl. She's got 50 credits, including multiple episodes of the Gilmore Girls.
Ooh, yeah.
She played Francie Jarvis on the Gilmore Girls.
Okay.
Okay. Shameless, The Marvelous Miss Maisel. It also stars Jason London, who has 128 credits. I know him best from Dazed and Confused, but he was also in To Wong Fu and several of the Aerosmith videos in the 90s.
Beautiful.
And it also stars Amy Irving, who was in The Fury and also played Sue Snell in the original Carrie.
Oh, okay.
She is playing Sue Snell in this film.
Oh. Whoa.
Yes.
Yeah.
It starts off when we are introduced to a young girl, and we're talking like an 8-year-old girl, as her mom is going quite insane, and she is painting everything in the house red with big, huge paintbrush. And she kind of starts attacking the daughter, and it feels very like religiously motivated. And then everything in the house starts going crazy. The windows are slamming open and shut, plates are flying across, all this stuff. So then the cops show up and everything kind of drops and they take the mom away. 10 years later.
Beautiful.
So it couldn't have been an 8-year-old girl. It's probably like a 6-year-old girl because we are reintroduced to Rachel in high school. She's not like Carrie, but she is our Carrie person in this film. She is fairly attractive, seems to get along okay with people, and doesn't have the angst and the issues that Carrie had, not being teased and all that stuff. But also, I don't know about you guys, but when I was in high school, I wasn't really bullied that much, but I probably was ignored more than anything else. You know, I was friends with jocks and I was friends with nerds and I was friends with goths and all that stuff. But I don't know that anyone, 30 years later would, if they said, "Hey, you remember Kelly Young?" I don't know if any of them would go, "Kelly Young? Yeah." I think they'd all be, "Who?" Because I was just a very nondescript person. And that's what Rachel is like.
Oh, okay.
Her best friend, played by Mina Suvari, commits suicide by leaping off the roof of the high school in front of everybody. And Rachel sees this happen, and she freaks out, and it basically is the catalyst for her telekinetic powers reemerging, and all the lockers inside the school suddenly slam open, and everything falls out, and all this stuff. So she finds out, and we find out, that her friend killed herself because she found out that this guy that she had slept with, she was just part of a sex game that he and all the other football players did, which was they would sleep with as many chicks as they could and make notes on who was the best and give them a graded score, stuff like that. And so, really shitty stuff.
Wow, sounds like my freshman year of high school.
Well, and when I did a little research, I guess this is based on a young girl who did kill herself when something like this was discovered. So
yeah,
it's like, boy, kids are fucking worse, man.
Yeah.
This trauma, like I said, triggers Rachel's repressed telekinetic ability. And as all this is happening, one high school counselor sits up from her desk, and it's Sue Snell from the original Carrie. And she's just like, she's having a little bit of PTSD.
Yeah.
And Rachel goes and talks to the school counselor, Sue, and she's just kind of talking to her as a counselor to a grief-stricken young woman and everything. She doesn't realize that this is the girl who made all that shit happen. But as they talk, Rachel gets more and more frustrated and everything, and a snow globe falls off the shelf. And so Sue is putting things together, maybe quicker than she should, but unlike Zack Snyder, Kat Shea only had a scant 88 minutes to tell her story, so she's got to move this shit along.
It was a different time.
Right.
Yeah. There you go.
So that evening, Rachel's dog, which is an adorable little basset hound, it is hit by a car. And Jesse, who is played by Jason London, he is one of the football players, but he seems to be like the nice one. And he drives up and sees what's happened, and he offers to help because the dog is not dead. So they scoop him up into his car and they get him to the vet, and the dog is going to be okay. And this gives him a chance to sit and take Rachel out for coffee. And they have a little bit of a talk and all this stuff. And you can see that there's some sparks flying, all that stuff. Jesse has recently broken up with his girlfriend. So we see there's a bunch of jealousy there. The girlfriend is very unhappy that he's showing interest in Rachel and all that stuff. Sue then makes a judgment call, basically pulls Rachel aside and says, hey, I kind of know what you can do. And Rachel's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so she takes her to the burned out shell of her old high school.
Wow, still standing, huh?
Yeah, and tells her what went on there. And Carrie White was a person who had these immense powers and couldn't control them. And if Rachel indeed has these powers, that she needs to learn how to control them. All that.
Did you get De Palma flashbacks for that?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and in my notes, I will talk a little bit about that. So Jesse and Rachel, they actually start dating, which pisses off the other football players and his ex, and that group then begin to conspire on how to.
Oh no!
Yes.
Oh no!
They've got a good prank in mind.
I bet it's very unique.
This is one of the things that cracks me up in these movies. This is a trope that I feel like has finally gone away, but the football players are teasing Jason London's character Jesse because he's dating this attractive woman, but she's not quite quality. Her parents or her step parents, adopted parents are poor and all of this stuff. So Eric, you remember what it was like when you were in high school and there was this hot chick checking you out and your friends pulled you aside, probably Jamie, and said, hey man, have you checked her FICO score? I don't think you want to be dating her.
Yeah, no, I don't have that.
Yeah. So let's just put that thing away. I'm so tired of this. Guys will date anybody.
Yeah.
Especially in high school.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
You're already in the same group because you're in the same high school.
Yeah.
Also, as a side note, isn't it funny how many people meet the love of their lives and it just happens to be the person who goes to school with them?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What are the coincidences?
I mean, my school had like 100 people in our class.
Yeah.
So, that's like what, 50 dudes you get the option out of?
Did you meet the love of your life there?
No, I met him at another high school, and then we broke up after high school.
Oh, I didn't mean to bring that up. Also, I didn't ask for your life story, Vanessa.
You know what? I'm just trying to be open and make this friendship thing real, okay?
Keep trying. So Jesse and Rachel, they go off and they have a romantic night in this cabin that one of their friends' families owned. And the friend has said, oh yeah, you guys can go here. But what they don't know is that the football players are filming them have sex. She loses her virginity and the jocks film it all.
Oh my.
But then they all start to kind of hang out together, and she is accepted by the jocks and all this stuff. And after one of the games, while Jesse is detained by his ex, who's trying to come on to him, and he's like not interested, Rachel is taken to a big party with all the other people and all this stuff, and she's having a good time, and she thinks that everybody likes them, and all this stuff. And then on the big, huge screen there in the house, they show her losing her virginity. In front of everybody. This is a big party. There's 100 people at this party. It's just like, man. these people know how to throw a party.
Well, they didn't want to do the prom again.
Right. Well,
I mean, I figured from the cover that maybe they would do it again, but no. That's good. That's good to know.
Well, she goes full Carrie and starts killing everybody, including Sue Snell, who has gotten wind of this prank and is going to try and stop it because she fears what might happen. And it does happen. She gets there as the place is starting to burn and all this, and she's
oops.
she's trying to open the front door, and there's a jock on the other side also trying to open the front door, and Rachel sends a fireplace poker flying through the air. It slams through the back of the head of the jock, through the door, through the front of the head of Sue Snell.
Aww.
And then the door slowly creaks open with both of them just hanging on it. I was like, you know what? I like that shot. There's also, this movie is not served by the makeup effect that they decided to put on Rachel when she starts losing it. She gets kind of this line of infection that starts running down from her forehead down the side of her face and everything. And it's kind of a neat idea of, just this black line that seems to be following, a blood vein or something like that. And it gets more and more prominent as she gets angrier and angrier. But now, I don't know if this is just because you can watch this with, very high res quality now, but you can clearly see this is like a grease pencil line that they have put down her forehead and everything. And it's like, oh, this is a really bad makeup job.
Come on.
Yeah. So I won't tell you how it ends, but it has some really good gore, lots of good deaths, and you kind of know how it's going to end. It's basically the Carrie story with the jump scare ending even. So
split screen?
No split screen. That might have been too much, I think.
Yeah.
But I have to say, as I was watching this, I was like, this is a dang good movie. It didn't need to be made, but it's not a bad movie at all. Very well acted, very well directed. When I started to do some research, I realized why it was a dang good movie. It was not written as a Carrie sequel.
Oh.
It was originally written as a movie called Say You're Sorry, which was kind of a Carrie knockoff. And the producers bought it and decided to turn it into a Carrie sequel, added the Sue Snell character and stuff like that. Amy Irving was then wary of being in it. They approached her of doing this. And so she asked Brian De Palma if it was okay.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, yeah, if you need the money, go ahead. They must have had a fairly decent relationship because right after Carrie, he put her in The Fury, which was another telekinetic weirdo movie. Yeah. But so there's some kind of friendship there. Rachel's nerdy friend is a guy named Arnie and is clearly a nod to Arnie from Christine because he acts and looks just like him.
Cool.
A little note here. The asylum that Rachel's mom was put in, Arkham Asylum.
But of course.
Wow.
Say hi to the Joker.
And this was the final film produced by Paul Monash, who originally secured the rights to Carrie, the novel, when no other studios would touch it. And he was a consultant before his death on the TV adaptation of Carrie, which was the last thing he ever did. So Carrie was a big deal in his life.
Yeah.
So that's my movie. The prank went wrong, but I have a feeling that that's probably what's going to happen in everybody's
I would think
choice.
so, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
Here's your short film. Oh, I pulled a prank. Oh, that was fun. Let's go have coffee.
We had a great time. Thanks for keeping things light. Yeah, so you know what? There are so many great options for prank films. There are at least 3 films that I wanted to talk about at some point. So it was I had to just choose one.
Pranks 1, Pranks 2, Pranks 3. We can always keep this going.
I know. Actually, that's true. That's good. I'm glad I haven't messed this, used any of these up yet. I'm going to save them. So the one I went with is a film that I have mentioned before, but haven't gone into depth about. And so it's really nice to be able to spend a little more time with it. And that is the 1980 movie Terror Train.
Oh my God!
Stay with your date. I don't want to get back on that track. Nobody does. Help! Please! Nice gag. Help me! Help! You'll die. At this temperature, you'll die. You'll die. Come on, no! Come on! No!
For the students aboard, it's going to be the one party to end them all.
They're always walking out of my parties. But this time, you can't.
Magic.
My last big college party.
It's a joke. Goddamn practical joke.
Train.
I don't want to get back on that track.
This one has a Rotten Tomatoes of 36% for critics and 38% for audience, which is harrowingly low considering how good this movie is. They just didn't know what was good then, clearly. The budget is $3.5 million, box office $8 million. That alone should tell us that the Rotten Tomatoes are wrong. Directed by Roger Spottiswoode, who, it's a weird name, but that's okay.
Former porn director.
Former for sure, if you've got spots there. He also directed The Sixth Day, 48 Hours, Tomorrow Never Dies, and my personal favorite, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Oh, Jesus.
I love that movie. Terror Train was his first movie, and now he's actually doing a lot more documentary and Hallmark stuff. And I cannot say, like it's bad to be doing Hallmark. There's so much Hallmark out there. It's just easy money.
It's where working directors go to work.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It was where the other editors who worked on Prospect were from. So the writer for this is a guy named Ty Drake. He only has like 10 credits, and a lot of TV is kind of what he's doing, including MacGyver. He retired in 1990, so he's been out of the game for a little bit now. And then there were two like uncredited writers, one who's a producer, did a lot of mostly TV stuff. So, and also National Lampoon's Christmas. Starring Jamie Lee Curtis as Alana, our main character. Everyone's wearing costumes in this, so I'll go ahead and also say her costume is a pirate. She is known for Beverly Hills Chihuahua, the remake of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Island of Misfit Toys. She guest starred in New Girl and Veronica Mars and The Drew Carey Show. And she was the telephone operator / curfew announcer in Halloween 3. So,
I was hoping you'd bring that part up.
Yeah, that was, a big role. I was surprised. I was actually pretty excited. I was like, wow, she landed a Halloween movie? That's pretty cool. Also in this is Hart Bachner, who plays Doc, who's kind of the second male lead. This guy, he looks familiar, but it's almost like, why do you look familiar? He's very young. He's been in 54 things, including played Arthur Reeves in Batman Mask of the Phantasm. He is in Die Hard as Ellis, which is where I was like, oh, that's definitely how I know you. He was in the 1984 Supergirl and 10 episodes of The Starter Wife. And then kind of an awesome role that we have in here. The train conductor is played by Ben Johnson. Now, he's been in 106 things. He died in 1996, but he's a cool dude. He was a stuntman for John Wayne, James Stewart, and Gary Cooper initially. Jeez. And then one day, John Ford kind of noticed him and pushed him into more larger roles. He has been in Last Picture Show, Wild Bunch, Getaway, Angels in the Outfield. Just incredible dude. He has some of the best stories and the kind of behind the scenes notes. And then last but not least, it's an ensemble cast. There's a lot of people in this movie, but I do need to point out David Copperfield's in this movie. Oh, shit. He plays the magician.
Ooh,
he doesn't even have a name in this movie. He's been in 8 roles. The Simpsons, he was in twice. He was in 7 Days in Hell, a TV movie. Crazy Ones, The Incredible Burt Wonderstone. He was in Scrubs. One Michael Jackson short. And he also directed The Magic of David Copperfield, number 5 through 15. There's a lot of these. Obviously, he didn't like whoever did 1 through 4. So he had to take that ship over. Plots. So during this kind of hazing, it's, late 70s, I guess, there's a sort of hazing fraternity party that's going on. A bunch of pre-med students are just drinking around a bonfire. And they have a particularly sinister prank for one of their more timid pledges, Kenny. With the help, I know.
Gonna kill Kenny. Sorry.
Not to that extent, but I appreciate the nod. With the help of co-ed Alana, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, they convince the nerdy pledge a sexy student wants him and is waiting for him and his fellow frat bro. They convince this particularly nerdy pledge that a sexy student wants him and is waiting for him in his fellow frat bro Doc's bed. So he goes up there. He's really excited. This other girl is kind of standing up in the hallway, kind of going, yeah, she's waiting for you. Go in, go in. And like Alana's in there kind of behind this headboard, just looking like really uncomfortable with what's going on. But like, they're all like, yeah, it's going to be fun. He's going to love it. Do it, do it. And so he goes in and he sees this really very sexy 80s style bed setup with the kind of sheer fabric over the edges, 4-poster bed. I don't know what kind of frat bro dude's room this is, but it is very elaborate. And there's a woman in there beckoning. And from behind the bed, we've got Alana kind of going, I want you, Kenny. I want you. He starts undressing. We see some spectacular yellow underwear, by the way. Super good. I was like, are those whitey tighties? No, those are yellow tighties. Those are amazing. He climbs into the bed, and instead of Alana, he discovers a puppeteered corpse in the bed. It's a bloated old woman. She has no arms. She has an artificial limb that he accidentally pulls out of the socket. He starts freaking out and screaming, jumps up on the bed and just starts running in circles, gets tied up in that beautiful sheer fabric. And the friends watch in horror. 3 years later.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Time has passed. I wonder what happened to him. We're at another joyous occasion. All of the med students that we saw previously are all now dressed up in costumes. They're waiting to get on this train, and they're basically doing this fun graduation party. So they've all been through, 3 years of pre-med hell. They're ready to go out in the world, and they're throwing this giant, elaborate costume party on this train. Alana and her boyfriend Mo, who both participated in the pranks with their best friend Doc, who really was behind all the shit, is putting this great thing together. It's elaborate. They've got a band. They have a magic show with the moody perfectionist David Copperfield. He's like really taking himself in this like party train magic show very seriously. He has a beautiful assistant. There's a caboose that's just for the seniors. The humor behind this is actually really neat because like the adults that are involved in this film know how crazy this is. Like the conductor is getting ready to get on the train, and he asks this woman who's sort of running the control room, "Hey, are you going to be on this with us?" And she goes, "Haha, no, that's insane. Good luck. Have a good time." And he's like, And then, the students are like offering him weed, and everything's very like nice and natural feeling. It's just, it feels like it's got a lot of good heart, even though they just traumatized a kid like seconds ago.
3 years ago.
Yes, definitely 3 years ago. Definitely 3 years ago. No one looks a day older, but So, of course, everyone's lining up to get on this train. And before it even takes off, one of the more annoying seniors, this kid named Ed, who's nonstop pranking everybody, like bad, sexist, horrible jokes. He's got this little like Altoids container kind of thing, and he's like, "Would you like some?" And opens it up, and he's got a hole with his like finger in it, and he's like, "It's a finger." Just stupid stuff. He's wearing a...
I hope that David Copperfield saw that and was like, "Fucking amateur."
I think he probably did that in the movie itself, actually. He was probably like, "Nope, sorry, not good enough." So this kid, he ends up with a sword through his chest, and he's kind of stumbling around, and everyone's like, "Haha, good one, Ed. Get on the train." Let him stumble to the ground. And of course, his head is placed very carefully on the tracks. So as the train begins to go, we know that his fate has come and gone.
Do we get to see that?
Unfortunately, no. I was watching very carefully. This was my second viewing of it, and I was like, "Do we see it? We do not," but it still feels incredibly tense.
I've never seen this movie, and I'm totally sold so far. I can't wait to watch this.
It's so good. It's so good.
The whole train just bumps up as it runs.
Now, like I said, this is like it just gets a smaller bump each time. Now, of course, everybody's in costume, so somebody wearing his full-faced costume, which is sort of God, I'm trying to remember. It's the face of, I think, Groucho Marx or something, is walking around, and we know that it's not him. In fact, maybe it's somebody here to get some kind of revenge. Surely not Kenny.
Thickly plotted slasher film.
Yes. But of course, the question is, what does Kenny look like? Because we don't know. It's been years. He went through this crazy trauma. Even in the opening scenes, we didn't get a really clear picture of his face.
Okay. I was going to say, it's only been 3 years and nobody looks any different. So
it was a nighttime naturalistic lighting shoot. So there's a lot of campfire and dim lighting in the sexy bedroom scene. So you don't really have a great concept of what this kid looks like. Now the killer has a costume. He's seeking out his revenge, and seniors just start disappearing. In fact, the seniors that are disappearing are perhaps the ones who were all involved in the hazing. How strange. Meanwhile, there's all kinds of very silly other things going on. The girl, Alana, is going back and forth with kind of having some arguments with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's best friend is that kid, Doc. And Doc hates her for some reason or another, probably because she's a strong-headed woman, it seems. And so Doc is trying to set up his best friend, aka her boyfriend, with this hot chick who's wearing no shirt but pants that like are really big and go up over the top of her like boobs. I don't know what she's dressed up as, and I cannot figure it out, and it's bothering me, but that's okay. Of course, like his friend starts to kind of fall for it, and Alana's supposed to walk in on them, and therefore, Doc can then go off in the sunset with his bestie without her there to impede things. But she gets pulled aside because her best friend is murdered, and the conductor is trying to keep things under wraps because he's not really sure quite what's going on at this point. He finds a dead body in a bathroom, and so he kind of locks it and goes to the back, and he wants to try and come up with a plan of action with the other dudes who run the train. I don't know what they're called. Train assistants. But by the time he gets back, there's nothing there. There's no body. All the blood's cleaned up. And of course, the costume is gone. So this person is changing from costume to costume to costume as he goes through the different people. which is great because it allows him to get into interesting situations. So with Alana's best friend, for example, he's now in a lizard costume with a guy that the female bestie is kind of interested in banging, and so gets her alone in a bunk on the train and has the opportunity to strike. So Alana's pulled off because they find this corpse, really iterating that, yes, there is something happening. They aren't just pulling pranks on the conductors. There's something for real going down. In the meantime, magic is still happening. David Copperfield is wowing us all and actually doing some really cool looking little tricks that they're small and simplistic, but they're really like fun to watch. And it just brings this whole like great element to things because he's taking himself so seriously and he wants everyone to be super impressed, including, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis, Alana, who they have this kind of flirtatious moment with. And you're like, go for David. Your boyfriend's an ass. He's dressed up like a bird. You don't want to care about him.
Tell me, Alana, is this your car?
That's 100% kind of what's going on, but with a quarter.
Yeah.
It's very good. In the end, she almost doesn't get her peanuts with her quarter because there's a peanuts machine. I didn't know that was a thing, but she gets them in the end. So, spoiler, it works out with the peanuts.
The careful pronunciation.
She loves the peanuts.
Nuts. So Alana starts to lose her goddamn mind because her best friend is killed, and then during a little magic show, Doc is hanging out with her boyfriend, and partway through the show, he goes from talking and, joking around to being dead with a giant slash. And it's like, when did this happen? In a crowded room, they're all sitting there like super chill. So it's like, what just happened? And it starts to kind of mount that maybe David Copperfield might possibly be behind this. But maybe Doc is behind this because Doc has been particularly moody and strange and pulling some of his own pranks. Maybe Kenny, who is dressed up as God knows who, is behind this. We don't quite know what's going on, but the bodies are mounting. We kind of start to get the idea that maybe Doc isn't behind it. He grabs Alana, he pulls her back, and he locks her in a car in the back with him, and he's like, okay, so clearly they're killing all the people who are involved in this prank. Clearly it's Kenny, and we have to just bunker down and survive. He kind of sees the writing on the wall, and he's like, we gotta, like, I don't like you very much, but we have to get through this and work together, which is this really nice moment. And she's like, fuck you. You just left a bunch of people like vulnerable to this murder, and we know who it is, and we need to figure it out and tell the conductor and start warning people. So she breaks out. And of course, now he's left alone in a room that has all kinds of closets and hidden compartments. And he realizes he didn't check the bathroom. And needless to say, he does not find a good end. The driver goes ahead and pulls the train over. We have this great scene where all the students are like forced off and they're standing in the freezing Canadian snow, just shivering their butts off. They're probably going to die if they don't get back on this train, but they're trying to like go through the train and see, who's left, who's a stranger. It's clearly not one of the classmates that they know. So they're going through person by person, cannot figure this out. So get everyone back on the train so they don't die, and just go ahead and they're like, it's fine. It's fine. We'll all hang out together and it'll be fine. It is not fine. The killer does, in fact, end up in this great chase scene with Alana with some really great moments going from car to car. At one point, she locks herself into this really interesting like equipment cage thing, and he starts coming at her with a poker. Now, we're still not 100% sure who this is because they are in yet another costume. And I don't want to give away who this person ends up being. I think it's really an interesting, cool twist. Nice. But there's just some really great little moments. And in the end, there's a strange moment where the killer says, kiss me. You kind of like owe me from the thing before. She kisses them. They flash into mad PTSD, start running around in circles, and let's just say that the train ends up just fine. They are all off and on their way, and the killer is at the bottom of a steep crevasse, hit their head on some rocks, and are now floating their way down a snowy embankment, which is pretty impressive. I was like, I don't think this person's coming back. They're like face down in water, like not gonna make it. The good things about this movie, they are really great at showing off these kind of really cool, neat locations. I felt like the train was just such a cool concept to use to force everyone to be stuck together. The fact that it's in, it is set in Canada, so there is no other option. You can't be like, why don't they just pull over? Well, they can't pull over. It's also the middle of the night. They just do a really great job also of using that train to build the mystery and the intrigue. The costumes are great for creating these sort of false people. Oh God, there's a moment that kills me in this where, okay, there's, fair amount of gore or whatever, but the worst is like one of my greatest fears, where the killer is alone with Alana chasing her down, and she's wearing hoop earrings because she's a pirate. There's a good earring pull. It's just, yeah. There's a reason I don't wear hoop earrings. For the ones I have on right now are extremely tiny. No way you could pull them out. Hopefully. Don't think about it. It's fine. And I was just like, fuck. The characters are really well established. They're all fun. They're all neat. They all have unique personalities. The ensemble cast works extremely well. I felt like I knew where everyone was, why they were where they were. It just feels really fleshed out. I love the conductor character. He's great. The constant pranks. There's just a lot of like setup, payoff. That Altoid finger scene actually comes back later when the killer now has the box and shows the box, and inside is an actual finger. It's just extremely well done. And actually at one point, Doc is running through the train going, everyone, he's carrying the body of his friend going, oh my God, like there's something going on. And everyone starts laughing because they're so used to these dudes pulling pranks. So there's a really good like sort of cry wolf element that's happening over and over again. And I just think it works extremely well. The bad things. 70s music.
Wait a second.
It's really bad 70s music. It's like
I'll be the judge of that.
Okay. I'll let you watch it and say. There's a dance scene that's pretty heinous. I have seen Prom Night, so it's not as bad as that. But oof. There's also a band that shows up and just is doing a lot of bad 70s things.
Man, this sounds like a gigantic train.
It's a really long train. It's an incredibly long train. Yeah, and it's not just the senior class. I should say it's the whole medical. Like they invite everybody who's in the medical program. So yeah, so there's like a lot of people on this train, and the freshmen aren't allowed to hang out, and the cool, it's just a whole thing. There's also an issue here with mental health. There is some cross-dressing elements in this that is done extremely poorly. And I just want to point that out, that's rough. And I don't like that. And I think we've come a long way. I think for a long time, this wasn't something that was seen or even thought about. I mean, I've said this before, but watching Miss Congeniality 2 is really harrowing when you're like, wow, you guys hate gay people. Like, it's incredibly homophobic. So I know that we're constantly learning and evolving, but there's a couple cringe moments in here that when you really think about it, does not work out well. Some fun... Overall, though, you have to see this movie. It's such a good movie.
I'm putting it on the list.
Yeah. Do it. Oh my God. You have to check this out. A couple of neat little behind the scenes things here. The idea for this movie came to Daniel Grodnick in a dream after seeing Halloween. He woke up and said to his wife, "What do you think of putting Halloween on a train?" And she said, "That's terrible." So
Go back to bed.
Let me get right on that.
he jotted it down and put down terrible train. In the morning, he changed it to terror train, and he'd written 22 pages by that morning. And by 3 in the afternoon, he had a deal with Sandy Howard's production company.
Wow, the good old days.
Yeah.
Lord, yeah, no
Isn't that
kidding, yeah.
crazy?
That's awesome.
Oh my God. The train was rocked back and forth on a rig inside a warehouse to simulate the locomotion, which I think is great. The opening prank scene was actually added after principal shooting had wrapped when they realized they needed an origin story for this character. I was like, that was not a good, you guys, come on.
You needed to take another hour or two on that script.
Absolutely. Jamie Lee Curtis in this had already earned the Scream Queen title by the time this launched, as she had done Halloween, The Fog, Prom Night, and Terror Train all within 2 years.
Wow.
It's freaking crazy, man. That woman works. The temperature got so cold in the evenings that the film crew had the cameras froze out overnight and they had to unfreeze them to keep using them. Ben Johnson asked the director Roger Spottiswoode to give Carney, his character, less dialogue. He said, "Now, Roger, on my first day working with John Ford, he took me aside and said, Ben, when you're in front of the camera, you're not going to need too many words. You just won't need them. They can get in the way." And I thought that was really neat.
That is nice.
Yeah.
Magician David Copperfield got very irritated during production because he had so much trouble saying his lines that he swore he'd never make another movie. And for the most part, he didn't. He really just did like bit parts in TV shows as himself. They used a really neat, unique method of lighting where they rewired the entire train and mounted these little like individual dimmers on the exterior of carriage cars, which allowed them to basically just light cars whenever they needed at like the whim of a moment. So they were like, "Oh, we're going to shoot in this train car." And they were like, "Okay, cool." And they just like flipped those switches on to light that car. Yeah. So good. And then for the faces, they use these little medical pen torch lights, as they call them, little hand lights to do the actors' faces. It looks really good. It looks super naturalistic. They shot this almost entirely at night, starting at 6 p.m., working until early in the morning. And the guy who played Kenny in a 2010 interview said that he actually got the role by mistake. So this person actually isn't an actor, who wasn't even auditioning. I was bringing a good friend in for the audition, walked in, they saw the site of him and said, "No, you're not good." And then they looked at me and said, "Do you want to audition?" I said I had no idea what it was for or anything like that. I had my own stage show that was this kind of like more theater-y thing. And they didn't tell me what this was for. He said, I thought I was doing a bit part. And then I got a call that said, "You got the part." And I'm like, "Okay." And I leave and I was going to the door and they asked me, "Mr. McKinnon, do you understand what just happened?" I said, "Yeah, I got a bit part in a movie." And they said, "No, you just signed up for the lead in a 20th Century Fox movie with Jamie Lee Curtis." I had no idea.
And his friend punched him in the face.
Yeah, basically. I feel really bad for his friend in that one, to be honest. Of course, because of this, the director had a really hard time with the actor and they did not get along. He also did not get along with David Copperfield. Yeah, and also this is a film that was included on Roger Ebert's most hated list. I'm continuing to disagree more and more with Roger Ebert as time goes on. I don't know what we have in common anymore, if anything. We both watch movies. That's about it.
Well, you're still alive too, so you got that going for you.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but it's true. So I don't want to rub that in anyone's face, but I am still breathing.
Roger Ebert, you're dead to me. And everyone else, apparently.
Oh my God, so bad. So, Eric, what prank film did you end up doing?
Well, one I'd wanted to see for a long time and then realized I'd have to talk about something to be able to speak about this film. But this movie is The Burning from 1981.
This summer, if you're planning to go camping, don't. If you're looking forward to midnight swims, don't. about being with someone when no one can see you, don't. Because this summer, a legend of terror isn't just a campfire story anymore.
They say he smashed his way through the bunkroom door, just a mass of flames. Burned alive, cried out, "I will return! I will have my revenge!" He lives on whatever he can catch. Right now, he's out there, watching, waiting.
What happened one summer 5 years ago is about to happen again, and again, and again. The Burning.
80% from critics, 60% from crowd. Budget of $1.5 million and a box office of $707,770.
Whoa.
There's some kind of code going on.
It sort of feels like it, doesn't it? So it was not what you'd call a hit, although it gained an incredible cult following. There's one huge, glaring problem with this film. Harvey Weinstein was a writer on the movie.
Okay.
No bones about it. We all know he's scum. He's going to die in prison more than likely, so that's always good. But this movie has dozens of people that worked on it. Dozens of people that showed up every day, put their work into this movie, helped make it happen. So I'm not going to destroy an entire film because they happen to work with a person that turned out to be just a raging prick son of a bitch.
Hear, hear.
So we're going to go on and establish firmly Harvey Weinstein's a dick. There's no getting around this.
Harvey Weinstein. Okay, I wasn't sure.
He's a raging piece of shit. So that being said, this was directed by Tony Malam, who directed Victory by Design, which is a whole bunch of car documentaries.
What?
Series of car documentaries. Olympic documentaries, and the movie Split Second.
What an odd career.
Yes.
I like that movie.
That's a good movie. Had writers. There's one person that wrote it, but there's another person, Peter Lawrence, who went on to write a lot of 80s cartoons. So it's like, all right. Starring, then this is quite the cast. I don't know if I've got everybody listed in the first run through, but I'll get a few more as we go along. Brian Matthews, who is best known for his appearance on The Love Boat in Santa Barbara. So, yeah, you don't probably know who that is. Lee Ayres, who was in some amazing films. She's probably, sadly, best known for her playing the girlfriend in Bloodsport by many, many people. But she's also in All That Jazz, which is actually one of my favorite films, and The Player, which is also an amazing film. She had a hell of a career. Brian Backer, who was in Santa Barbara, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Let's see, somebody I'm sure you've heard of, Jason Alexander, is in this.
Sounds roughly familiar.
Yeah, as I say, well, you know what he's been in. So go on there. And Holly Hunter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was in The Piano, Copycat, and a few other things. She's in the movie, but she's not really in the movie. She's sort of a extra. But she's a featured extra. She's in a lot of it. Larry Joshua, who went on to star in Cop Rock.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't know what that is, look it up.
I just learned. Holy cow.
And Ned Weinberg and Fisher Stevens. So there's a lot of people here that most of these were their first major film. At first I thought maybe it was going to be based in Idaho because they're in Camp Blackfoot. There's a Blackfoot tribe in Ann City in Idaho. Well, probably a town. But no, it's not. Anyways, so this is a 80s slashers film that takes place at a camp in the woods. In 1981, that was still not unique. The movie starts with the prank. And, of course, goes horribly, horribly wrong. It's a very weird prank. A bunch of guys decide they're going to make fun of the caretaker or harass the caretaker. And so they get a hold of a skull and they fill it with like maggots and put candles in the eyes and then pound on the window till he wakes up and sees the skull. The candles fall out, whole thing lights on fire, and the guy gets horribly burned.
Oh, the burning. I get it now.
Yeah.
Fire.
Right there at the beginning.
Wow.
He does live. He's very disfigured. And boy, do they drive this home with a series of shots of a guy convincing another doctor, you got to come see this guy. You got to come see him. You're not going to believe what he looks like. And then when they pull the curtain back, the guy reaches up and grabs the guy. It's like, ah! And this was Tom Savini doing the effects. And boy, wow, there are some amazing effects work in this film. It's really, really well done. But then you get a series of voiceovers as the caretaker is leaving the hospital about how he'll never recover from the scars and his life is ruined. And he goes out and hires a sex worker. And her reaction to him is not great. So that ends up kind of driving him to seek revenge on all the people that hurt him. And he runs back to his camp. Part of the problem of knowing who was involved in writing this film is there's one sleazy, creepy, kind of nerdy looking guy with curly hair and glasses. And I'm like, fuck if that's not Harvey Weinstein at 16.
Really?
It just kind of looks like you would imagine he is. And of course, he's the sleazy guy who's a peeping Tom and all that shit. So, it's like, So there's still a little bit of holdover from that asshole being working on it. But the weapon of choice for this was garden shears.
That's fun.
I mean, you get burned horribly, you go to garden shears.
Well, he was a caretaker.
Yeah.
So
gardening
Tools
in the forest.
Clip. This tree pine looks great.
There you go. The movie opens with, then it moves to the camp, and the camp starts up, and what I thought was going to be maybe the camp counselors, and maybe some of the kids because of the odd ranges. Then the kids show up, and these are little kids.
Oh.
So it's like, okay, so that is the camp counselor, and they're taking care of like 8, 9, 10-year-olds.
Oh.
So they get the guy who's the peeping Tom, and of course the ladies do the proper things and yelled at him, and the stud guy comes, don't worry, I'll look after him. And he really doesn't do anything. Like, you shouldn't do that, dude. Don't do shit like that is what it amounted to.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that always surprises me when you're watching these 80s things, as times have changed a lot, how much smoking goes on
Sure.
in these movies. It's like half the camp counselors smoke. And there's also Jason Alexander is one of the cool kids.
What?
I'm assuming he has hair at this point.
Yes, he's got a full head of hair. He's kind of slim.
Slim, right.
Whoa.
Got the numbered jersey t-shirt on.
I need
kind
to
of thing.
Google this version.
It's the summer of George.
That's right. But so that's kind of fun. Having him, though, stand up to the kids. Don't worry, I'll help you. You're getting bullied. I'll help you take care of that is kind of
weird.
Funny nowadays. I go, really? Okay. Then, of course, you've got the usual segment of antics that go on in any of these camp movies of people wandering around and hooking up and pranking each other and silly stuff like that. Then a few of them, like 4 or 5 of the kids and a bunch of the counselors go canoeing trip to an island. So they all get in their canoes and head out to an island. And that's where Jason's the stud flirty guy throwing water on the lady's canoe until it falls over. And they honestly look like they had a lot of fun in that scene. It's like, oh, this looks like they pulled it off. And they tell this movie is loosely based on something called the Legend of Cropsey, which is a New England area of country legend. And they tell the story during a campfire. They tell the Cropsey legend and it's really well told. The guy who tells the story does a great job. It's well shot. I know I've mentioned a few times day for night stuff, and apparently this whole movie was day for night except for the actual scenes with a campfire. Holy shit, it's well shot. The day for night works well. And it was, I don't remember if it was Shout Factory, I think, remastered this recently and did a really good job. It looks great. But that, of course, leads to another kind of little prank, but more of a scare you in the woods prank kind of thing. A couple goes for a naked swim in the lake. The guy's a raging asshole. So the lady gets up and leaves, and then she disappears. What happened to her? The canoes are gone. Is somebody pulling a prank again? And then, slashers be slashing.
Sure.
A lot of that, they quickly build a canoe that's relatively water ready. So they go out on the canoe. And this was a film. This was part of the video nasties. And many people believe it's because of this scene where they go out on the canoe and the Cropsey guy comes out and slaughters everybody that's on this little raft. It's like, oh my God. Savini's work in this is really disturbingly well done. There are moments where like somebody gets stabbed like in the side and it looks so realistic. It's like, that's grim. And, you know, there's a lot of the over-the-top slasher stuff, but he's definitely at the top of his game in this film.
Wow.
He did say he felt a little weird having people line up to find out how they were going to get killed. There's another unique moment where the kind of hero guy gets killed, but he doesn't get killed. He just kind of gets knocked on the head. And somehow the slasher guy who's thoroughly taking care of everybody else kind of just lets him be. So I'm like, oh, all right. But of course, this is not a final girl movie. There's a whole bunch of survivors. There's several different survivors. And the last scene is two of the guys in a copper mine or a copper mill or something that was out in the woods. It was a real place they used. So they're running around through this place and it looks really cool. But they pretty much just take him out. I was like a little surprised at all the survivors, how many people survived. I guess they hadn't quite caught on to the Friday the 13th thing where almost everybody has to die. This would have been a horribly brutal film, though, if they'd gone through and killed everybody at that camp. Because a lot of little kids, been like 60 little kids.
Jesus, like, just a pile.
So trivia notes, because it's a slasher film. I'm not going to need to go into detail of what happens, but it's largely considered one of the better slasher films by slasher experts, I guess. It is good. It's solid. It's got acting. Obviously, a lot of people in it went on to be incredibly successful in the acting world. The director really didn't, but it looks like he had fun. He directed car videos. How horrible could that be? But the concept of the film was originally titled The Cropsey Maniac. Like I said, the campfire tells the story there. Also a basis of the documentary, which I have seen. I think it was submitted to MIF. Maybe 2009 would have been MIF. But it's a very good documentary and pretty interesting. Though they make absolutely no real reference to this film in the documentary. There's no mention of an entire movie based on the story.
Interesting.
Wow. There's a shot of kids kicking wildly while they're on fire. Was Tom Savini, because he didn't like the way they were kicking. It's like, I can do this better. The wardrobe on the film was largely brought by the cast. They didn't really have wardrobe at all. So they didn't have a costume person on set, and everybody just took care of their own stuff, which is probably why it looks a little more, I saw something where people, do you believe the clothes worn in the 80s and the 90s? Look at this movie. Did everybody wander around with ski goggles? No, it's a movie. Everything is exaggerated. Not so much in this one. The director said there was so much dust in the copper mine that he was still coughing it up several weeks later after completing the shoot. It looked pretty dusty. Holly Hunter had a great statement about being in the film. It was technically her screen debut. He's like, her reply was, well, look, I got paid more than I ever could have imagined on the burning. I was making $1,000 a week. I could make my rent. I didn't have to wait tables. I got these new friends, and I was basically a glorified extra. And you barely see her. She's basically one of the camp people, but she shows up in the background a lot.
Wow.
That's like, and she got her Screen Actors Guild card out of it. So it was great. And again, similar to the kicking feet, however, the director decided some of the people weren't holding the garden shears well, so he decided he was going to kill all the people. I tell you, there's some sick directors out there.
Jeez.
It was the feature film debut of Jason Alexander, Fisher Stevens, and Holly Hunter. Stevens would have only 2 more horror credits as Max Armstrong, and then he did The Hunger. But then he went on to executive produce The Midnight Meat Train. They originally were going to shoot the finale in a cave. They went through one of the caves was full of bats. Yeah, so they didn't want to shoot there.
Bat buds.
The other cave they went through after they scouted it collapsed.
Oh my God.
So they're like, let's just do the mine outside of the mine. There's always one of these kind of notes. This film, which has a similar storyline to Friday the 13th, according to special effects makeup artist Tom Savini, was actually written before Friday the 13th. I'm like, okay. But, you worked on both of them, so what do you care?
Yeah, exactly.
And it does show up on many best of lists for slashers because it's just well done. Harvey Weinstein's still a shithead, but this is a movie worth watching, and he's not going to collect any proceeds from it anymore. The movie's well worth its place in the pantheon of good slasher films.
Nice.
Does it well.
Good picks, you guys. I haven't seen either of yours, and I want to now, and I think they're both on Shudder.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
maybe
think
that's what
so.
I'm doing tonight.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
That's weird because have you seen Carrie?
No.
So none of us have seen any of the other.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Terry Train. I haven't seen Carrie.
Wow.
There's all this weirdness.
It's
Just to be clear, you have seen Carrie. You haven't seen The
Carrie
Rage,
two.
Carrie
Exactly, yes.
2.
I have seen the screen splitting.
spleen splitting.
De Palma film.
Cool. I think that means, Eric, it's your choice for the next topic.
Oh, yeah, it is. Really forgot about that. But I didn't forget the topic. We're going to go with banned movies. Movies that have been banned in preferably like maybe a whole country. But if you can come up with other ways, just that they have major banning and not being able to screen at certain places for some time.
Awesome. I like it. And it's not marching band. It's band.
That's right.
No musical.
No. I expect to hear the drum line to be talked about.
Somebody better be twisting some kind of metal rod.
And here's to all of us saying, Jamie, I hope you laugh hard enough to fall on your treadmill.
Oh, absolutely.
I think I missed something.
Jamie was telling me last night how he gets weird looks listening to our podcast while he's working out.
Run carefully, tie your shoes.
Last episode, I talked about the value for value model that I wanted to take this in. And already we've gotten some really nice feedback on it and a very generous donation, which I think we should be talking about a little bit later. But that donation came with a request, which we are definitely going to honor.
Yes. Even beyond what you requested about it.
Dun, dun, dun.
So thanks so much for everybody liking, sharing, whatever value you get out of this.
We're on this subject. I heard a really interesting idea today about how to share. One thing, if you're really liking this podcast and you've been listening to it a while, so you're comfortable, reach out to a friend of yours, reach out to somebody in your family that you think might like it. Send them a text message. Say, hey, check this out. Nobody is more interested in listening to something or watching something than the thing that's been told to you by somebody you really like or really trust. So that would be so cool. Just text a friend or a family member or somebody that is weird and enjoys movies in weird ways and let them know about Strange Aeons Radio. That'd be great.
Oh, I love that idea. Actually, I've done something similar for other podcasts with friends where I'll find like an episode that I think that they would particularly like and share with them the link. So if there's an episode that we did that you think is just right for somebody else to check out, or you want to introduce somebody to a movie that maybe they've been avoiding, but want to get them a little more intrigued, then yeah, absolutely share a link for that episode that we did.
Right. Let somebody know their favorite movie is Cobra. Well, we got a great conversation about Cobra.
that poor pizza, man. That was just a massacre.
My buddy George, we text back and forth all the time, and I try to suggest podcasts to him, and he finally was like, look, man, I don't listen to very many podcasts. The only one I listen to is yours. Oh, thanks, dude. Well, then don't worry about those other ones.
Thank you.
Who needs additional podcasts, really?
All right. So that's it. Next week, we're coming back, and we are talking movies that have been banned, and we will see you then.
Bye.
Our show is recorded somewhere high above Naval Station Everett at the nexus of all realities and is engineered and produced by Eric Margaret. Our theme music is Strange Aeons Part 1 by the band Nightshade and is used with permission. Find Strange Aeons Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and wherever